Mhm.
But the becoming is what's before us, which is the embodiment. And the best way
Mm.
that I know to define it is if you're thinking about it, if you're using the concept of intellect and of thought, oh, I've got that. I get that. Getting it is not being it.
Hi there, and welcome to this newest installment of What's Love Got to Do with It, the podcast. I'm your host, Joseph Atalig. And before we get started, for those of you who are watching on YouTube, if you didn't know, the podcast is available on all streaming platforms to include Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, etc. So if you're out and about, or you need to put some headphones on, you're taking a run, check us out on the audio version of the podcast. And it feels pretty cool actually to listen to it versus watching it. Is a different experience for me. Anyhow, to get started, I'm thrilled to be able to bring on today my soul sister and a really good friend, Lisa Mercado. She is the creator of Inner Wisdom Awakening. She's an author, an award winning speaker. She's a quantum healer, a transformational life coach, a spiritual teacher, and a light counsel channel, all rolled into one beautiful human being. Now, for nearly 30 years, Lisa has guided high powered female executives, influencers, and everyday people through the process of awakening for expansion, finding true purpose, and reclaiming personal power the feminine way. Now, what's unique about Lisa is she is initiated as a priestess in the Rose Temple lineage and a keeper of the ancient temple codes. She is passionate about supporting souls to plug back into the source of which they were created, to awaken their fullest potential and watch the magic of their extraordinary life unfold before them. I met Lisa about 3 years ago in a conscious community that actually spanned the entire globe. And we traveled together in this community for about 3 years and got to know each other well. And you're going to see in a moment that we're going to love up on each other when you watch the episode. So, without further ado, because I can talk a lot, I want to introduce you to Lisa Mercado. Enjoy the episode. Hello, Lisa Mercado. Good to see you, sister.
Hello. It's always a pleasure to be with you. And I do think that I take credit for your nickname, but I don't know if your
No,
listeners can I not
I don't think
share?
you
Okay.
can. Oh, for sure, you can share.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, you are and will forever be in my heart, Papa Joe. um yeah, and in such a fond, like just such a sweet way, like this reverence of just
Yeah.
you holding that like Papa Bear, holding it down, and always coming with such love and reverence. You're kind of like, I think to name you Papa Joe gave almost the opportunity for everyone that we supported and moved through those beautiful spaces we were in, um, like the exalted father, the father that
Mm,
could love unconditionally. So
I
thank you
receive.
for that.
Ooh,
Yeah,
I
receive
love. I
that. How about
receive
that?
that. Ooh,
Woo!
and ooh. All right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
'cause we all got
And
our mother and our father wounds popping up somewhere, don't we? So,
right.
yeah.
Yeah. And for me, my experience with you has been like witnessing the embodiment of all the things that you have been called to be in this time and space. You know, you bring so much wisdom and a depth, not just knowledge, but wow, and the way that you express yourself. So it can be so mesmerizing. Just you just when just brought in, So I do appreciate our kinship and friendship. So
As
let's
do
move on as we're loving on each other in front of everybody.
I love you. I love you. Yeah.
I love you too.
And may we be the example, right? Because it really is the raw, authentic
Yeah,
truth, especially in a world gone mad. Holy wow.
yeah. Well, let's get started with your book.
Sounds
So,
great.
Yeah, so share with the listeners and those who are watching on YouTube, your project, kind of the evolution of it and where you are with it, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. Whew. Well, you were there for some of the earlier phases of it when it was just a dream. I was like, I'm gonna write
Yeah.
this book. And this book has been a dream in my heart. I mean, I've been told by every psychic, intuitive, numerologist, whatever, for a good 30 years probably that there was books that needed to come through. And part of I guess the evolution of this book coming through really goes back to when spirit started just purely channeling through me. Words have been given to me for more than half my
Mm.
life is the only way I can describe it. It started as a young yoga teacher at a super high end resort in Big Sur when I was in my early 20s. And I'd get everyone in Shavasana, and all of a sudden it was like I'd be speaking these things. And I was like, holy shit, like, who is talking right now? It took me by surprise too. So there was just this like influx, this download, and the true download version, people talk about downloads all the time, but it was
Mhm.
like literally having words and essence poured down through me, and I was observing them as they were coming through. So it's one of my superpowers is to receive spirit's words and allow them to my being to be the conduit of them. So book makes sense, speaking makes sense, sharing makes sense. So it was a labor of love very much. And it was, many, many years in the making of like, I got to write a book. And I took so many, like, write your course in the week, write your book in a weekend. And,
Yeah.
I took so many classes and so many things like, how do you write a book? How do you write a book? And everyone was like, you just write. But I'm an Aquarius and I don't do structure all that well. Like I have 0 Virgo in my chart probably. Um, and so people like, you just get the outline and you get the thing and then you do, and I'm like, I don't work like that. So at some point I literally just started writing, and it was 2 years, really 2 years ago from right now. I just started writing, and it was during the pandemic, and so
Mhm.
much was changing for all of us. I mean,
Right.
nothing's the same as it was. There is no going back in any way to who we were before that. I call it uh, AC and BC, like before COVID and after COVID.
Oh, I hadn't heard that. That's
I
funny.
made that up, I think. Yeah, but so, it's like just
Mm,
like before and after Christ. It was a big deal change.
right. Yeah.
So basically the information, the desire came to write a book about ascension because we're
Mhm.
in this ascension portal, everything's coming really quickly. And so I started the laborious act of love of just bringing through um what is ascension, what does it look like, what are the pillars of it, and the 5 pillars that came through me was presence, connection, deconstruction, ascension, and then the rise. And I got to, most of the very practical tools and what does it look like and what's dimension shifting and a lot of things that like provides knowledge for humanity that's moving through this. We're all doing it, whether we know what
Mhm.
it's called or not. We're all having this
Right.
experience of like something is fundamentally really different. And
Mhm.
we are being asked to stretch and expand and let go and heal in ways that can be incredibly overwhelming. So I'm writing the book and I'm doing that and I'm just throwing pieces together like I like to like create like a tapestry of like let's make this chunk and that chunk and just writing, 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 bringing in stories, sharing, and I get to the deconstruction phase. And my life starts to literally deconstruct. And
Wow.
in the process, which were witness to, and I just have to say, when we witness each other, it is our greatest gift. I think most of
Yeah.
humanity
Yeah.
really just wants to be seen and held and really
Absolutely.
acknowledged. It is
Yeah.
the deepest force of healing. So anyway, I got to that part of deconstruction of as a phase of ascension, and the linchpin of my life came out and everything started unraveling. So um the house was going. I was reconstructing an online business. The house, my dream home of 4 years, was selling out from underneath us. My son was going off to college. I'm looking in the mirror of my 15-year relationship, and I'm like, it felt like it had also found its completion. So my
Mhm.
partner and I start walking through a very conscious, beautiful uncoupling. Um, and fast forward, we kind of dismantle everything, and 7 weeks later, he unexpectedly dies. And so that trajectory of like, it was like, I thought I had done the hardest thing I was ever going to do, which was like deconstruct my life. And then
Right.
grief walked me into an experience that I was by no means prepared for and I didn't walk through grief ever. It was a new experience to me. And as it says in the book, when she comes in the middle of the night, she doesn't care if you're dressed or ready. She literally rips you from your bed and she's like, "You're mine. Let's go." And so the book took a pause, as did everything
Yeah.
else. I realized most of it was written by that point, and then through the course and process of my healing, of my grief, of my own death, because I do believe I died many deaths
Yeah.
um, through that process. We talk about the death of the ego. It was the death of everything I had attached to
Mhm.
for security, for who I thought I was, for who I thought I had been. Everything, every edge of my life was rattled. My cage was rattled, and I was forced to let go at the deepest of levels. And when before it all, in the middle of it all happening, I was in Hawaii, and Spirit said to me, "You'll die 1,000 deaths to be reborn 1,001 times." I didn't know that they meant that year. Uh,
Wow.
and I only bring it to the table because it's the journey we're all walking through.
Yeah.
There's one of us, like, the entire planet is grieving and going through dark night of the soul and going through a death rebirth portal,
Right.
and the only thing that matters is that one, right? It's like you die 1,000
Right
deaths,
on.
one that
Mm.
matters. It's the rebirth, it's the resurrection, it's the remembrance of something that is so significant that you could
Right.
not get there if you did not walk through the portal of death to get it.
Okay, now I was about to say preach it because you brought me to that place of I never thought I needed to and wanted to go through. Yet it is the portal. It is the ushering in. And it is the necessity, to get to that quote unquote promised land of ourselves,
Yeah,
of divinity, right?
and let's be clear,
And
nobody wants to do it. It's not fun.
hello? Yeah, I didn't
We're
sign
not
up
like,
for this.
"Hey, can I do that? Can I go through a dark night and buy 100,000 deaths? Can I do that?" No one raises their hand and says, "Me, please."
Right.
And
Or
you're
we'll go to a seminar or a retreat, which are all wonderful, but it's like, oh my God, I had, and then like there's so much, those are so critical, yet in the communities in which we're in, sometimes it keeps people more at bay because then there's that addiction to
Oh, good
it,
point. Yeah, and it's
right?
all outside of self, right? It's all figuring it out,
Yes.
not figuring it in. We
Yes.
figure it in, we're never gonna figure it out.
Yeah. And that's kind of that unearned, wisdom that you and I were talking about prior to, is we get so wise about these things, of the divine and of spirit, and we know it to be true, yet we haven't crossed the line into embodiment, right? Where we move it from here to my body.
Right.
And I would, if you recall, early in our spaces, you always used to tell me that. You said, Brother Joe, I wasn't Papa Joe yet, but Brother Joe,
You weren't
like
initiated yet.
you, yeah, you are the embodiment of love. And now that I know that I know that I know what embodiment is, it's like it wasn't a compliment. It was like this validation of your seeingness, of your, you know, what you see, how you see it. It's like, wow. And so when I hear you and I hear your guidance and your wisdom, I mean, that shit is solid. because I've experienced it, So does that make sense in terms of the embodiment piece and like, moving into the space of, you know, getting so lost in you could get mesmerized in the work even,
Right.
right?
Well,
And
and
getting yeah.
I think that how do I wanna say this? Like, the defining factor of that embodiment piece is, like and I again, there's a chapter in my book that's called "Embrace to Embody," and how Spirit brought that
Mm,
through was that, we've embraced a lot of concepts. Like, we understand laws of attraction. We
mhm,
understand the laws of, like, that you have to be a vibrational match for something to come to you. Like, we understand these things. We understand the law of exchange, like,
mhm,
of give and of take, that of equanimity, right? We understand these things. We have concepts, we have intelligence around these things.
mhm,
But the becoming is what's before us, which is the embodiment. And the best
mm,
way that I know to define it is if you're thinking about it, if you're using the concept of intellect and of thought, "Oh, I've got that. I get that." Getting it
mhm.
is not being it.
Mhm.
When you're in the
Right.
being, in the becoming, in the embodiment, you ain't thinking about it.
Mm,
You're experiencing it.
yes,
You have
absolutely.
emotion. You have resonance in your field of, "Oh, okay, I wanna create this thing, and I feel it through every cell of my body. I have an emotional response to that thing in my body." The mind might observe what the body's doing, but it is not a thought. It is a sensation. That's embodiment.
Sorry, I'm going back to my church days when we would go like this. This is like, get it. That's so
What?
good.
Are we like whooshing spells?
Yeah.
Love it. Well, spirit just
Wow.
loves to speak when we give the platform, right? But that's it. That's what I've become aware of in my own journey. Um, and I think what got me there was the depths of surrender that were required when everything that I perceived that I was taken.
Mm,
Because it was like, so, the shamans say there's a statement they talk about the hollow bone, right?
mhm,
Like, if you're a hollow bone, you can show up, which is really just being neutral. And I
right.
think when you go through those experiences of, like, the deep I'm gonna use the word devastation, I don't even know if that's the right word for now, but it's devastating when everything disappears, and, um,
Mhm,
it forms this hollow bone where you're like, "Okay,
mm,
I got no." The ego, there was no place for ego because there was
mhm,
just, like, no room at the table for it, because
right.
this
Yeah,
wasn't an egoic journey. This was like
right.
it wasn't even survival. It was a pure form of something that I did not know until I felt it.
Oof,
Um, and I know you know it because you've
yeah,
walked it. And everyone has their own, stories to tell around it. It's not
yeah,
about the story, it's about the experience. Yeah, it's like
yeah, yeah. I, I I totally feel that. The difference in terms of what and how you described it is deep surrender because I that's where it was resonant for me because it could get safe even in the first or second layer of surrender because we've been doing the being in the arena doing the work so we have language we get a little bit of it
we're still
but it's
controlling it all in
like
our mind.
yeah
Great illusion.
but when you are left with almost no identity and nothing to hold on to and to grip to and
Yeah,
to stand in or stand on and being totally naked, you know, to the idea of you know, I get it. When I hear like the term "let go," I turn like right away. I'm like, okay, that's good. There's a good message there. Whoever's talking about it, right? Surrender, let go, allowing, trusting, all those things.
But we hold on, like, with our bloody fingertips, like, we hold
My
on,
God,
you know?
yes.
We hold on, and then it's just like, and what happens if you just let go? You're just carried, through
What-
that. I think one of the biggest things that came through that, and I'm curious if this was true for you too, because I know you just walked through a lot of releasing.
Mhm.
It got to a point where I mean, there's many on my knees moments for sure, definitely. Um, begging for clarity,
Mhm.
begging to be shown. And the biggest thing that's come through all of it is that you just need the next step. So like
Mhm.
our 3D old density minds that we're leaving behind. You remember when people used to make like 5, 10 year plans? We're like, how's that
I
working?
know, right? It's like it's like
Oh,
the universe says, "Hold on, hold my beer." And it's
right,
like,
right. We used to do
we'll see
that
about
stuff.
that.
We don't do that stuff anymore. I mean,
No.
maybe if people haven't quite, bridged the gap yet, but it's just like, no, you just need the next step. Like, what is the next thing? Like,
Mhm.
the there's an amazing speaker that I just listened to at an event last weekend, and he was talking about the new intelligence is less about the IQ and more about the EQ, the emotional
Mhm.
intelligence, and that the new humans is what I like to call us as we're becoming new. The new human intelligence, who's going to make it through this crazy ride we're going through, is those who have the capacity to unlearn everything they've learned really quickly, to await the
Mhm.
next step, and to be able to pivot on demand. Well, those are my words,
Mhm.
not his words, but it's like, how quickly can you adapt? Adaptability is the new highest intelligence.
You need to coin that pivot on demand. Wow.
Let me write that down.
Yes, oh my goodness.
So, but that's what it is, and that's what I was taught during the journey through that was like, so much I didn't know, and then, like, literally a year to the date of, like, when we had to be out of the big house and all the stuff
Yeah.
happened, a year to the date, I again had to move. And again, just like this
Yeah.
perfect mirror from year to year, June 30th of 2 years in a row, I had to move, I didn't know where I was going, 10 days out, I had no idea where I was going. And it was really hard the first time. The second time, through, like, grief and insanity that I'd been through for the year, I was just like, "Really? Like, I do my
Yeah.
work. I'm devoted to
Right?
it."
Yeah.
I'm like, "You're gonna do this to, like, what?" It's not like I'm walking around unconscious and need a 2 by 4 to the head, but
You're right.
I kept getting it, and I was like, "Okay,
Uh,
okay."
mhm.
And what came through that, again, the second time it nailed it in, was you just need the next step. I just need to know what my
I
next
love
step
it.
is. And I
Yeah,
think that's the best advice we can give any human beings walking through this crazy shitstorm that we're in called humanity.
absolutely. Yeah,
One step at a time. You just literally need the next step. And you get
yeah.
there and you wait and you think you're heading in a direction and you hit a wall, you pivot. And you walk in the next direction.
Mhm.
It's so much about presence, which is like pillar 1 in the book. You're gonna get nowhere until you really master presence, which is like right here,
Uh,
right now. This is it. Then you can pivot on demand.
yeah. Wow, I love it. I absolutely on the, um I'm just reversing here just a tad in terms of surrendering and this journey you've gone through. I knew you were on the surrender, trajectory because leaving that house, your first house,
Isn't that how
I
crazy?
just, yeah, and I know there was so many, I wasn't even there, but I would go out on your deck with you, right? As I
Mhm.
hear the birds, and then all of a sudden,
The
these
views.
owls, it's like, what is she have there? Then
I was
hummingbirds
living in
show up,
magic
and it's
for
like,
sure. Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
And even surrendering to those things, just like you said, like, wait a second here. It's not that I'm this unconscious, right? and that dynamic of this layers of surrender, letting
Yeah.
go. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, when the dark night knocks on your door, you just you're going. There's no
Yeah.
and I think the thing that's beautiful to remember is that, um, a really good friend of mine said like, I kept I don't like the word trying, but, like, I kept trying to get out again, like,
Mhm.
"Okay, like, this is all done, like, I need to be me again. I need to get back to my service and back to my life." And it's like I'd stand up and I'd get crumpled down again. And I was just like,
Yeah.
why can't I get moving forward? And a good friend of mine was like, there are seasons. It is the Taoist way is the seasons. And she said, you can't rush the
Mm,
winter. You can't
yeah.
rush the winter. And all I wanted was the spring. Like I was like, get
Mhm.
me out of this winter. I hate this thing.
Yeah.
Out of here, and
Hmm.
the truth is you can't rush the winter, but
Yeah.
when the spring comes, it is more glorious than perhaps anything you've ever experienced
Yeah.
because of the depths of the winter you've gone through. It's like
Ooh.
it has a new flavor
Mm,
because it is a coming to life that is so much more significant because you walk through your own death.
mm. Yeah.
All the
I
cool kids are doing it,
I
apparently.
right. We're cool kids now, so
We've been initiated by hell. We are cool kids. But honestly, I really do think that some of us are being initiated through it a little bit sooner because, we're servant leaders here. Like our
Mhm.
mission is to be in service to the collective of
Yeah.
humanity. And so we get to walk through these things kind of a little bit ahead of the curve sometimes so that we can be like, hey, I just walked through this. Like, I got you. I got
Yeah.
you. Let me just light, like, even if it's a flicker of a candle, I'll keep the light lit for you and you'll get here. Spring's coming. I'm sitting here in spring in the flowers
Yeah.
calling you to come. So,
Wow. That's beautiful. So in your book, right? So in the Palace of Light, so thematically, right, you're sharing your journey. What would you say is the underlying theme, right,
yeah,
of your book?
there's several themes that come through. So the practical tools it's really like a tool guide for ascension. Then I wrote a memoir style tapestry of what deconstruction actually looks like. Um,
Oh,
but I would say the biggest theme that comes through is that to all things that we walk on this journey, we choose. We are really in the choosing, even though, I didn't choose my perception is I didn't choose that, but I chose it all in some level,
yeah.
and what we get to choose is we get to choose how quickly we can pivot. We get to choose if we're gonna lean into God, Goddess creator, all the way to walk the journey home. We get to choose
Mm,
if we're gonna react or respond. We get to choose. So I'd say one of the biggest themes within the book is you choose. You choose it all, and that you're the creator of it all.
yeah.
So it is all of your choosing. It's
Mm,
probably the biggest takeaway. The second one is that you're not doing any of this alone. This is a collective experience. And it can feel kind of lonely out there. I mean, it can
yeah.
feel desolate. And because what we're learning is how to detach from outside things. Like to your point about, we can go into all these spiritual teachings and trainings and come out feeling like that we've become new and we have information, we know things.
Mhm.
But until we know things, we know nothing.
Mm, mhm.
And what Spirit's been saying a lot to me a lot, especially in these last few weeks, as like the volumes really turned up. The message has been there is a divine well of knowledge that is available to each and every one of us. When we get
Absolutely.
out of the programs of the thinking mind and we get into the essence of the feeling embodiment we've been talking about, there's just like this direct source, like it's all here for us. We just have to stop
Absolutely.
stepping outside and start allowing in the internal flame to ignite. So I would say, yeah, you choose how quickly can you pivot. Knowing that you're the creators and that you're not walking this path alone. We're all really walking each other home.
Yeah.
and that everything is already alive within us is the message, is the overall theme of the book.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And the idea that we choose everything, and it's because we're God. It's the idea that, the universe, God, is only one response, and it's yes,
Mm.
right? So it's like, oh my God, this is going to be so hard. Yes, right? I am the creator of all things. Yes, right?
This is gonna be so
And
easy. Yes.
it's going to be so easy. Yeah, right. And in
Choose.
that, because I love what you've been saying about, us, it's actually the acceleration, right, of the new earth,
Yeah.
right? And it's like moving us into this Christ consciousness, this second coming of it.
Well,
Yeah.
yes, and I have to say, thank you for bringing that to the table because, the biggest thing that has come through this experience for me has been a death, rebirth, resurrection, and remembrance
Mm,
that has brought me it actually has my entire life making sense now, Joe, to be honest,
yes.
and it is exactly that. It is that this is the second coming of the
Mm,
Christed consciousness, through it's actually the second book that I've started writing, so we'll excited to talk about
yeah.
that when that one comes, but, so much that's come through this process of, has been a deep remembrance back to the last golden age, which was when Christ and Magdalene walked on this planet,
Mm,
and that this is in fact the second coming of of the consciousness of the Christed one. And this
yes.
time, the rise up is coming through the feminine Christ is rising.
Mm.
And as the feminine Christ and the
Mm,
masculine Christ stand in harmony and unity, the unity of consciousness shall prevail. And this second coming is the reason that most of us as light workers are here on the planet, is to build a bridge from that golden age to this golden age. And this is
ooh,
the exalted time of resurrection and remembrance
yeah.
as the
Wow.
devotion and the apostles to the light
Mm,
of service of the Christed one, which is love that is unconditional and the I am
yeah.
presence of all that is.
Oh,
So,
yes.
hallowed
And so,
be the magic.
absolutely. Mm. Which, of course, is very appropriate for me to ask to you. What's love got to do with it?
Mm. What does love not have to do with it? What does love have to do with it? Love is it's the alpha and the omega. It is the genesis and the revelations. It is, um, there is no existence without the existence of love. So,
Mm,
when we get back to the fundamental truth of that and allow that to be our resonance, we will be fearless and powerful, and we will be fueled by
mm,
that.
mm,
Because the fear aspect of this is an illusion that's running as a program on this planet right now, and it none of it's real. And so love has everything to do with it because it's our freedom, it's our salvation, and it's our becoming.
mm. That's just gorgeous. Wow. We could talk forever,
We
Lisa.
could.
And yeah, when is your what's the timing of the release of the launch of your book?
The book is launching on May 19th. Mhm.
Oh, this okay, within with a week or so. I mean, week
Yes,
and a
like
half.
yeah, it's coming real fast here. Yeah, it's
That's
we're on the cusp
awesome.
of it all right now. And, so it'll be available on Amazon and all the ways.
Awesome.
And yeah, and then there's an audible version coming out probably sometime in July. So
How exciting.
yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, for those of you who are obviously experiencing the same thing I am, and there's just the essence of this creatrix known as Lisa McCardle. You can find her on social media on Instagram at Lisa McCardle underscore. And then you can also check her out at her website and everything that she's up to at lisamccardle.com. I'll remind everybody, or I'll put all in the show notes all of the contact information and a reminder about the book. Are you doing any pre-orders or anything to that nature, Lisa?
Yeah, we're gonna move into pre-order. We're just, it's all about the technical stuff right now. So as soon as
Yeah,
it's up, it'll go into pre-order. So yeah,
yeah, beautiful.
it'll be on
All
my
right,
website on the front.
yeah. So as we, conclude today, I'd like just to offer up um, something that's in your heart to share, to the collective,
Hmm.
and in this time, right? So if you take as much time as you need to, to speak, right, and let it come through deeply.
So what's coming through is that this is a really precious, precious time for humanity. We're on the brink of something that is more significant in a lot of ways than anything we've ever walked through as humanity before. And that's not in an alarming sort of way, it's in an opportunity sort of way that it's time. And what that means is it's time to shed everything internally or externally that just is not serving you. It's time to let go. It's time to let that bloody fingers, because there is a
Mhm.
current of love and of consciousness and of God's self that's waiting to catch you. And the sooner you let your grip go, the sooner you will be delivered. And the deliverance that is coming is something more significant and more beautiful than we have the capacity to imagine from this space of density and pain we've been harvesting and walking through. Um, and the most important thing is to know that you are never alone and that the divine is here, and we are truly walking each other home to a palace of light that is our truest soul's expression, and we do not get there alone.
Mhm.
That's it.
Yes. Oh,
Aho.
yeah.
Right?
Amen.
And let's do it now. Let's go.
Let's do it now. All right.
Can we speed it up? Yeah.
Thank you so much, Lisa, for being with us today. And thank you for those who are listening and watching. I'm just so blessed to be able to continue to experiment in this laboratory. And I'm open to feedback and see what else, Spirit has to unfold for all of us. So, with that being said, stay loved, be love, and see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Mhm.